Okay, we're getting back into the 1930s, the Great Depression era. Remember, the United States is going through the Great Depression. Yesterday, we talked about Japan, how Japan is trying to expand into Asia because they need more natural resources. Remember, they dominate the Korean Peninsula. They take over parts of China. We talked about their violent behavior towards the Chinese and the rape of Nanking. And once we talked about the Japanese and their expansion, we said that America finally took some action and stopped trading with them and said, look, we can't do business with you guys anymore. You're too violent. You're becoming too aggressive in the region, and we're not comfortable with that. So we have that going on. We also talked about Italy and how Benito Mussolini introduces a new political system that we call fascism. Fascism, the idea, a political belief system that one group of people is superior to others. And in this case, Mussolini shared the idea later on with Hitler and the Nazis that these white Central Europeans descended from races of people that were the ones who had the ability to create culture and think up new ideas and come up with better ways of living, and that everybody else was just kind of stealing their ideas. Okay? Now, today we're going to talk about Germany and how the Nazi Party becomes so immensely popular. Because remember, Hitler had spent time in prison, and he got out of prison. Everybody thought the Nazi Party's done. But no. And there's a couple things that we need to know about why the Nazi Party becomes so popular. One of the reasons why is because of the Great Depression. Now, remember, the Great Depression is a worldwide phenomenon where the economic conditions are so bad, people are looking for jobs, they're having difficulty providing for their families. And so when things are difficult, when somebody comes along and says, I've got a solution, I can fix this problem, when you're desperate, you're willing to listen to just about anybody, even if it's some crazy guy who says that, hey, I can fix all your problems. Don't worry about it. Even if he says, we got to blame the Jews for this. The Depression causes people to be a little more open to Hitler's ideas than if they had not otherwise known such a thing. Okay? And another reason, we want to talk about the other reason for the popularity of the Nazi Party is that Hitler and the Nazi Party made sure to appeal to a wide variety of folks. Okay? And let's real quickly talk about some of those, that variety of people. They appeal to veterans. Hitler himself is a World War I veteran, and remember, he was a decorated veteran, served honorably in World War I. They also appeal to farmers and factory workers because Hitler and the Nazis said, we respect hard work and labor, and we want you to be able to work and have jobs and be proud of yourself. Right? Hitler also appeals to individuals who had, individuals who were anti-communist or anti-socialist. And he said those people want to take your wealth and redistribute the wealth to everybody. And he says, look, there's two great evils in the world, Jews and communists. And so remember, communism is not a super popular idea in any place other than the Soviet Union at this point. And veterans and farmers and working people like some of what Hitler has to say, right? And I want to show you Hitler here. This is one of his great campaign posters. Hitler decides to run for president of Germany in 1932. Now, remember, this is the same year that Franklin Roosevelt first gets elected to president. So he and Hitler both trying to be presidents of their respective countries. Now, Hitler, you can see, uses some unique candidacy ideas here. And this little political poster where it just says Hitler, it's really simple. And a lot of people think, oh, it's dumb. But it's not, because when you look at most political campaign posters, you usually see a lot of color, red, white, and blue. And the Nazis wanted to go for something different. They said, look, black and white will stand out because everybody else is trying to use this wide array of colors to stand out. And in that case, black and white will stand out just fine. And you see Hitler, look, it's not, usually when you look at candidates on campaign posters, their heads tilted one way or the other. So you see like kind of like not a profile, but at an angle. Hitler's looking, no matter where you look at, where you're looking at this poster from, it's like Hitler staring right at you, right? So you can't get away from it. This is a good one too. Check this out. Hitler is on the cover of a magazine, and look at him. He's like a farmer. He's sowing the seeds of peace, though. And in the background, you see the silhouette of an angel. It's an angel blowing a trumpet and holding, it looks like a long stalk of corn or perhaps some wheat. And Hitler's out there in the fields, all serious looking. Okay? Hitler's got some good people working for him. Can you imagine seeing this type of campaign poster? It's fantastic. Right? This was a good one as well. I don't know what it is, but the lines coming out of the background are mesmerizing. Right? At the bottom, and at the top, it says for Reich president, basically president of Germany. The German that you want is vote Hitler. This is a good one too. I love it right here, man. You got this strong German, and notice he's got the swastika belt buckle. And at the top it says, break the chains, vote Hitler. All right? We're imprisoned. And part of the reason why, remember, Hitler and the Nazis are like, hey, that whole Treaty of Versailles after World War I, they screwed us over. We got stabbed in the back by the Jews and the communists here in our own country. But no more. We're going to break the chains. Vote Hitler. Right? Now, Hitler, he's gaining popularity, but I want you to see this as well. It's not just Hitler that's getting popular. The Nazi Party in general. This shows you the political parties, the major political parties in Germany. And you can see from the end of the 1920s, like in 1928, Hitler and the Nazis, they only had 2.6% of the seats in the lawmaking body, the German Reichstag. Okay? But by 1932, they're going to have 37.4% of the seats in the Reichstag. That's huge. And the Reichstag is like the United States Congress. They make the laws in Germany. And you can see later on, by the end of 1932 and 1933, the Nazis are going to have over 40% of the seats in the lawmaking body. All right? Now, the Nazi Party's getting more popular. They keep repeating their message, the conditions of the Depression, the fact that Hitler's a war veteran, and a lot of veterans like this, hardworking Germans, want to see changes, and they consider Hitler for president. But in the end, Hitler's going to lose the presidential election, and he loses to this guy. Okay? This guy is Paul von Hindenburg. All right? And Hindenburg, look at this guy. He's like a grizzled old veteran. He's also a famous World War I veteran from Germany. And you can see this guy just, like, it's like his picture just breathes military all over it. Okay? And Hindenburg is the one guy who's immensely popular throughout the country. You cannot overstate how well liked and how well respected he is. And Hitler and the Nazis have a problem. They can't just badmouth this guy in the press and talk trash about him because they know they'll look like the bad guys. It would be like somebody in the United States trying to talk trash about George Washington. It simply doesn't work. All right? And Paul von Hindenburg's going to win this presidential election, but there's something important here. Okay? Hitler still got like 45% of the vote in this presidential election. And that concerned a lot of people because they're like, hey, this guy is advocating for a lot of crazy stuff. And Paul von Hindenburg is no dummy. Okay? Hindenburg realizes that Hitler and the Nazis are bad news, and they're up to no good. And so Hindenburg and some of his advisors say, you know what? Let's try something different here. It's one thing to run your campaign and say you promise everybody the moon that you're going to do this and that. But when you get into power, when you get into some type of political office, you realize just how hard it is to follow through with some of that stuff. So Paul von Hindenburg decides, I'm going to offer Hitler a job. He offers him the job of what we would call chancellor, right? And chancellor is, it's like, let's put it like this. The president's job in Germany is to handle like foreign affairs, the military, and a few other small tasks. And the chancellor handles like day-to-day operations within the country. See, here in the United States, we have a president that does all of that. But there, they were like, hey, we don't like one guy in charge of stuff. So they had a president and a chancellor. And so Hindenburg says, look, if we give Hitler a job in the government and make him chancellor, he'll be so busy trying to, get stuff done to help the Depression that he'll never have a chance to do even half of what he's promised to do. So Hindenburg offers Hitler a job as chancellor. That way they'd be kind of working together. And Hitler accepts the job. All right. Unfortunately, though, for Paul von Hindenburg, things are going to be a little more difficult than what he anticipated. All right. Fast forward 1 year after the election. Hitler is in his job as chancellor. Paul von Hindenburg's in his job as president. And all of a sudden, the Reichstag building that you see here, the place where the German lawmaking body meets, it's like our U.S. Capitol, it mysteriously catches on fire. This government's on fire. I bet you didn't see that one coming. Anyway, here's the story behind it. The Reichstag's on fire, and everybody wants to know who's responsible. And remember, it's Hitler's job to take care of the domestic problems, okay? The domestic problems. Now, domestic meaning stuff that's going on at home. Remember, Paul von Hindenburg's job as president is he takes care of all the foreign affairs, the military operations, etc. All right? And Hitler says, I know who's responsible for this. And everybody's like, oh, who? And he goes, it's the communists. Okay? It's the communists. Ooh. And people are like, we got to stop these communists. They're trying to take over, just like they did in the Soviet Union. And Hitler's like, you're right. We have to get rid of all these communist terrorists. All right? So they actually catch a guy, which later on they probably framed this guy. And truth be known, most of the evidence points to the Nazis setting fire to the Reichstag. But they blame the communists for it. And Hitler has a discussion with Paul von Hindenburg. And he says, look, we got to get rid of all these communists in Germany. They're terrorists. They're terrorizing the country. And so Hindenburg agrees, and Hitler issues something called the Fire Decree. Okay? The Fire Decree. Now, what the Fire Decree does is it temporarily takes away freedoms of German citizens. Okay? It takes away freedoms of German citizens. Right? And things are going to get a little crazy. Now, you see this right here. This is actually in an American newspaper, and they were paying attention to what's going on. It's a big deal when, a lawmaking body, a government building like the Reichstag, catches on fire. And so, ultimately, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of assembly are suspended. Okay? But Hitler says, don't worry, guys, it's only temporary. And so when Hitler says we're going to issue this fire decree, it means that if we catch communists having one of their little meetings, we could arrest them because there's no freedom of assembly. And if somebody tries to speak out and say things in support of communists, we can arrest them for that too because there's no freedom of speech. And if somebody prints a newspaper that has communist ideas in it, we can shut that newspaper down and have them arrested as well. All right? And by doing this, Hitler's able to get rid of a lot of the communists, imprison them, shut down their newspapers, shut down any radio stations that they had, and Hitler finds himself able to get rid of a lot of freedoms of folks. All right? Now, at this point, Hitler has got a little bit of power, but it's not going to be till he tries something else that's going to get him even more power. We'll pick up with that tomorrow, though.